Woke demands from LGBT plus group sees schools urged to stop saying boys and girls. Now, do you remember Bruce Jenner? I think he calls himself now Caitlyn Jenner. He said, even though he's a biological male, that he decided he wanted to come out as a female or a lady, from a man to a lady, even though we know that's not possible. But anyway, even he says that the wokeists, the woke mob, have hurt the trans community. Okay, that's the fake community. So he's even saying that those who are pushing this fakeness are hurting that which they're claiming to represent. But they don't care. And the next generation of the wokeists will arrive on the scene, even more hysterical than the ones we've got now. More than 300 schools are signed up to a scheme telling them to stop calling pupils boys and girls. It's amazing, isn't it? You know, they can say this, they can stand there being hysterical saying, call me this and call me that, don't call me this and don't call me that. But at the same time, they're demanding that those who want to be called boys and those who want to be called girls can't be called boys and can't be called girls. We're to stop this immediately. They are just absolute freaks, okay? They are hypocrites. Primary schools, secondary schools and nurseries teaching children as young as 2 receive awards. Listen to this. This is bribery. This is how they get paid off. This is how lots of even politicians get paid off. They're even doing it in the schools now and they're allowed to. This is, they receive awards from the LGBT plus charity Stonewall. I think that was the charity that was pushing in the schools, or something to do with operations and for little boys and little girls, you know, when they're role playing and they do all different roles and they try to encourage them that, well, are you sure you're a boy and not a girl, or are you sure you're a girl and not a boy, because you just touched that doll. You just touched that toy soldier. You could be a real man if you touched that toy soldier. You could be a real girl if you touched that doll. Yeah, but I was only touching. I was just passing it to Samantha. Oh, Samantha. Would you like to be known as Sammy? No, I don't want to be known as Sammy. My name's Samantha. And Tony was only passing me that. Oh, Tony. Would you like to be called Antoinette? You see, these are the sickos. This is the way they work. Charity requests schools to use they instead of he or she, and children or young people instead of boys and girls. You know, they were allowed to put the wedge in the door. They've got the wedge in the door. And they're not happy with the wedge in the door. They want to push that door wide open. And the question is, what next? What sickness are they going to try after this to impose upon the classrooms and the natural order that God ordained, male and female? Male and female, he created them. Why? Why? To populate the earth, fill the earth, as well as relationships, etc. There is also guidance promoting the installation of gender-neutral toilets and making both boys and girls wear the same uniform. I told you. Wedge in the door. The wedge in the door, they're not happy with basically getting accepted by those who want to live the lie alongside them in Fantasyland, but they want to dominate and take over. Stonewall's new annual report reveals that at least 300 schools in England are still signed up to its champions. And notice how they use sophistry and play with words. Champion scheme. We're all champions if we follow the LGBTQ plus narrative and agenda. Champions, you're not a champion. You're not a champion if you dare to say you're what you are, a biological male or a biological female. You've got to go along with their neutrality insanity. But it's not neutral. They're not neutral, folks. They've got an agenda to push, and it's on display. The charity has defended the scheme, saying that young LGBT plus people should grow up in an environment where they feel safe and supported. What about those who don't recognise as LGBT plus in the schools, which is the vast majority? What about them feeling safe? Would you want to be in school next to some bloke, if you're a girl, who's claiming that he's a girl but he's a biological male? Would you? Yeah. Oh no, you wouldn't. However, it has been criticised by Conservative MPs who called for a blacklist of organisations like Stonewall. Conservative MP Nick Fletcher, who sits on the Commons Education Select Committee, told the Mail on Sunday the Education Act is clear that partisan and ideological material should not be promoted in our schools. And yet they're allowed to do it. So his words are meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. He added, surely Stonewall continued promoting the unscientific and highly contentious idea of gender identity is exactly this. When the Tories are no longer in office, he will be held accountable for these words by Stonewall and by the LGBTQ plus community, the hysterical part of them. They will try to drag him through the courts for saying, how dare you say this is unscientific? What evidence have you got? This is unscientific. Well, actually, the evidence is silence, boy! How dare you speak for yourself? Well, the evidence, let's just say he was allowed to speak. The evidence clearly states scientifically, if you're a biological male, then you've got XY chromosome. And if you're a biological female, then you've got XX chromosome. That's the evidence, Your Honour. How dare you? How dare you promote science in this world of fantasy that we're trying to create? How dare you? Off with him to the gallows! Let's chop his penis off, and he can be known as a lady for the rest of his life, and he must wear a dress and speak like a lady. Anyway, talking about speaking like a lady, somebody very close to me who works at a certain fast food McDonald's restaurant, and he was on the night shift, 2 o'clock in the morning. Next thing, drive-through. Now, I don't know if you've ever been through a drive-through at McDonald's, but at the drive-through, the McDonald's staff can't see inside the car when the person's making the order. They only see them when they pull up next to the window to pay. So anyway, he said, they pulled up, how can I help you? And then the man, I'll say the man, in the car, gave his order. I'll have 25 McDonald's, big burgers, whatever. And so, this person working at McDonald's, is that all, sir? Would you like anything else, sir, with your order? And this man in the car had a hissy fit because he dared to call him sir, because this man in the car decided at some time that he no longer wanted to be recognised as a male, but he wanted to be recognised as a lady. This is how unbalanced they are. This person in the car, this man in the car, couldn't grasp, or whether he could grasp, you know, but he just wanted to have a go at somebody, couldn't grasp that there was no way this person serving in McDonald's could even see in the car. All he would have heard was the voice, a man's voice. So, if it was a lady's voice, he'd have said madam. And anyway, obviously he wasn't happy about getting moaned at and screamed at. So, this man pulls up and apparently had long fingernails. And I've not asked him yet, not the man who pulled up in the car had a hissy fit because he was called sir, even though the person working who's close to me in the McDonald's had no way of seeing him but only could hear him. I was being polite, by the way, calling him sir. Now I don't know whether he had a dress on and lipstick and eyeshadow and all that, so I'll have to ask him when I see him. But I can guarantee one thing, he would have looked like a right freak, wouldn't he? So I've said to him, right, what you want to do from now on, don't call anyone sir, don't call anyone madam. Just ask them what their order is and then say thank you. Because this is the world we're living in. You can't even be polite to people anymore. They want to have a go because they're the angry people who all their lives have been attention seeking, and they just want to carry on with that attention seeking, and that inner anger is just there, raging to come out at someone because they're so unbalanced. But anyway, before I go there myself, let's read on. So, a guide from 2022 for schools wanting to secure an award, given an example of how a PE teacher could become more inclusive. This could be suggested by saying, boys, girls and non-binary students, pick your team now, or use gender-neutral language such as, students, pick your team now. Well, yeah. A spokesman for Stonewall said LGBTQ plus children still face high levels of bullying and significant barriers in education. So now they want to bully other children, the majority of the children. Now they want to bully them into no longer being able to be called a boy or a girl. They want to bully them into their twisted, sick fantasy world. You see, this is what these people are like. So it's only right for schools to create an environment where they can grow up supported and safe to learn. So what they're saying is that basically the schools aren't safe until those schools adhere to their demands. This is a madman in the schools. A madman being allowed to run amok in our schools. And this, I tell you, Vlad and his Chinese counterparts and North Korean counterparts, they'll be laughing their heads off in this. You know what? Can you imagine it? We are going to be fighting men in dresses who think they're women. You know, insanity. A spokesman from the Department for Education said, we withdrew from Stonewall's Diversity Champions programme in 2022. You may have withdrew from it, but you're still allowing them to do this. How are they allowing them to do this? And I've not funded any programmes related to Dubai. Oh, I see. So you've just not funded them, but you're allowing them still in the schools and inclusion schemes since to ensure value for money to the taxpayer. So the taxpayer, for how long, was paying this insanity, this Diversity Champions program, paying into this for? So this group, Stonewall LGBTQ plus insane people, so they can pay off teachers to get rewards and oh yes, we will take that, we'll be able to buy some books with that money, oh yeah, and they'll all be LGBTQ plus about grandpa want to brainwash his little children into the LGBTQ plus community. I've done a video on that. That's a fact. They've got books exactly like that in the schools. But anyway, here we go. In December, new guidance said teachers and fellow kids should not face sanctions if they use a child's wrong pronouns unless they are doing so in a bullying manner. Can this be turned round onto the LGBTQ plus community or no? in a bullying manner, attempting to impose their fantasy land in the land of reality, where real things happen, where science says, if I, let's say, drop this from here, gravity will ensure it goes to the ground. Unless we're in a vacuum, of course, then it'll go a little bit faster. But anyway, we're out in space and it'll just float around. But there you go. The guidance said that toilets and changing rooms are expected to remain as single-sex spaces. Let's just say watch this space, because probably it won't stay that way. There you go, folks.